طلعته والليل سجى من وفرته. الله الله Muhammad, peace be upon his soul. The greatest of prophets, Islam was his only goal.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in the series, Pearls of the Prophet. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. And I welcome you with the Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on each and every one of you. As I hoped previously, I continue to hope that you will benefit from this program of prophetic guidance, that the words will become imprinted on your hearts as they have become on mine, and that God give us the courage to live in accordance with them. And in this segment, we'll be looking at the prophetic advice with regards to the deeds that we do. How should they be? What is the best way in which we may do them? In this regard, Aisha stated that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The deeds most beloved to Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. A very short and simple statement. The deeds most beloved to Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small in number or in size. Whether we have big deeds, which have normally associated with it a lot of reward, and smaller deeds that are associated with smaller rewards. But what is most important, what God most wants from us, is consistency. That we are consistent in our acts of righteousness. That a person establishes principles of good in his or her life. Though they may not be many, they are the basic principles that they can live by and they keep as a foundation for their lives. Not to become righteous at one point in time and then unrighteous for the rest of the time. As we have, unfortunately, people who are what we call Friday Muslims. On Friday they come and they pray in the mosque, Salatul Jum'ah. They are righteous at that time, they're making their prayer, but then the rest of the week, they have forgotten God. God is only in the mosque. Or the Ramadan Muslims, those who all year long, they're not praying or doing anything, they're cheating, stealing, lying, doing all kinds of things. But when Ramadan starts, they automatically become holy men and women, praying day and night and all these acts, staying up for Laylatul Qadr and giving charity, doing all these things during Ramadan. As soon as Ramadan is over, they change again, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is not Islam. This is not liked by Allah. Because those righteous deeds done in this fashion are not true righteous deeds. They are rituals. A person cannot spend 11 months of the year without praying, without being conscious of God, without fulfilling one's duty to God, and then in 1 month, all of a sudden become conscious of God, fulfilling one's duty, etc. No. That person is only going through the ritual, the motions. The prayer is meaningless, not changing them, as proven by the end of Ramadan when they go back to what they were. As Allah said, Inna salat tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. Salah prevents one from evil speech and evil deeds. If it's not doing that, it's not what Allah prescribed. So Allah, through His Prophet, has informed us that this type of righteousness is not true righteousness, not really acceptable to Allah. What He wants from us is consistency. We pray all year long. Prayer is a part of life, not something to be done when we have a need or out of fear or ritualistically as a annual celebration, an annual ritual. No, prayer is a way of life. As on the occasion when a man came to Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and he asked the Prophet, what is required of me of Islam? And the Prophet went on to explain to him 5 times daily prayer, giving zakah, fasting Ramadan. And then after explaining those things, then he went on to explain, well, after praying your compulsory prayer, then you may do voluntary prayers. And so the man said, no, I will do exactly what you said, what's required. The compulsory prayers, compulsory charity, so on, so and so. And he turned and walked away. And the Prophet turned to his companions and said, if you want to see what somebody of paradise looks like, look at this man. Another occasion he said, in a similar circumstance, he said, if that man has spoken the truth, he will get paradise. Meaning that if a person did the basic pillars of Islam, didn't do any more or any less, as the man said, he's not going to do any more, and he won't do any less too. That is enough to carry one to paradise. Because each pillar of Islam is not a ritual, but a guide to life. It is a character-building, moral principle which creates a new individual. So if a person establishes those basic principles, it will produce a righteous individual of the highest of moral values and character. The basics. But the basics done consistently, meaning out of conviction. What is done consistently is what is out of conviction, done out of a commitment. That will have an effect on the individual. And this is what Islam advises, this is what Islam invites to. Establishing basic responsibilities, and when we want to do voluntary acts, we better to take a few that we make a part of our regular life from that point onwards, rather than trying to take on huge amounts of good deeds, which we only do for a moment and we forget, or we burn out, we can't handle it anymore, and we stop. What is preferable to Allah is good deeds done consistently, even if they're only a few or they're small good deeds, but they have become a part and parcel of our lives. With that, dear viewers, I hope that you would take an assessment of your lives to see to what degree it matches up with this principle. Are you amongst the extremists who only pray in Ramadan or on Fridays? Or are you among those who consistently make their prayers every day, as long as they're conscious, 5 times a day, wherever they are, prayer has been established? If that is the case, then Allah loves you. If it is not, then you better change. May Allah give us all the courage to change ourselves, having understood the realities and the truths that Prophet has brought for us. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. May Allah give us the courage, help us to make the necessary changes. And with that, dear viewers, I'd like to thank you for being with us in the program. As we looked at righteousness in our lives and its importance, as well as the importance of prayer and being consistent with our ablution, looking after it, doing it as we should. I bid you all farewell, hoping that you will be with me in the coming segments and that you will continue to benefit as I have benefited. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Islam invites to establishing basic responsibilities, and when we want to do voluntary acts, we better to take a few that we make a part of our regular life from that point onwards, rather than trying to take on huge amounts of good deeds, which we only do for a moment and we forget, or we burn out, we can't handle it anymore, and we stop. What is preferable to Allah is good deeds done consistently, even if they're only a few or they're small good deeds, but they have become a part and parcel of our lives. With that, dear viewers, I hope that you would take an assessment of your lives to see to what degree it matches up with this principle. Are you amongst the extremists who only pray in Ramadan or on Fridays? Or are you among those who consistently make their prayers every day, as long as they're conscious, 5 times a day, wherever they are, prayer has been established? If that is the case, then Allah loves you. If it is not, then you better change. May Allah give us all the courage to change ourselves, having understood the realities and the truths that Prophet has brought for us. May God's peace and blessing be upon him. May Allah give us the courage, help us to make the necessary changes. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. And we'll be looking at the prophetic guidance with regards to dowry. Uqba ibn Amir related that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, said, Khairu sadaqi aysaru. The best dowry or mahar is the easiest to fulfill. Very simple statement. The best dowry, dowry being, or mahar in Arabic, the amount of money which is given by the husband or the husband-to-be to his bride-to-be. Not money given by the parents of the bride to the husband-to-be. You know, as is common in the Indian subcontinent, which leads to all the bride burnings that are taking place. Hundreds of people every year, women, are burnt alive because their families could not provide enough money or wealth to those whom they married. This is not the way. And for Muslims to fall into this is to have deviated from the path. They have turned the religion upside down. Money is not given by the family of the girl or by the girl to the one who she is to marry. The dowry or mahar is a symbol. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money or thing. It is a symbol. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, married some of his companions who had nothing on the dowry that they would teach what they knew of the Quran to their wives. This is something unimaginable today. However, this was the way of the Prophet and his companions. May God's peace and blessings be on all of them. So, this symbol is fundamentally a symbol representing the man's preparedness to look after that woman. He offers something of his property, his wealth, to that woman prior to the marriage, at the time of the marriage, mentioned during the marriage ceremony, that he is prepared to look after this woman. A symbol. So Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, gave further clarification to that, because sometimes this symbol can go out of hand, as it has today, where wealth has come into this part of the world, and the pride, etc., and boasting amongst the families has led to an increase in this dowry, to the point where men may have to save up for years. They can't get married. They need to get married. They're the age to get married. They cannot. They have to save up for years before they can afford to get married. And then when they get married, they become in debt for years paying off the marriage. Marriage is costing hundreds of thousands of dirhams. Just the process of the marriage alone, not to count what is given, etc., etc., etc. This is all against Islam. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Those spendthrifts, those who are wasteful, those who squander their wealth, these are amongst the brethren of the devils. وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. And Satan was a disbeliever in his Lord. So in Islam, squandering wealth on huge parties with huge amounts of money and food that's wasted, etc., this is not from Islam. That's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that خَيْرُ الصَّدَاقِ أَيْسَرُ. The best dowry or mahar is the easiest to fulfill. That the woman set an amount which is reasonable and in keeping with the spirit of Islam, and the man pays such an amount, that the society accept that amount. This is the best mahar in the sight of God. And the society may not be looked at as the best. Society may demand all kinds of shows of wealth, extravagance, squandering, etc. But the best in the sight of Allah is that which is simple, easy to fulfill, recognizing the spirit and not necessarily the material aspects of the letter of the law. So, dear viewers, I hope that those of us that have been caught up in this cycle of extravagance with regards to dowries, etc., that we take advice from the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings upon him, here, and break this cycle, stop this practice, and return back to the way of the Prophet, making marriage easy, facilitating it for young people. Because when a young man doesn't get married and he's working to get these things, and his desires are there, it's very easy to deviate, especially with all the corruption, etc., which exists around in the society, whether in the media or whatever. It's very easy to deviate. So if we do not help such individuals getting married, then we are contributing to the problem of the society. If we are the ones who are demanding these high dowries, then we are corrupting the society with our demands. So, dear viewers, I hope that we would reflect on these thoughts from the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. Try to apply them first and foremost in our own lives, and then to invite others to accepting and applying these principles regarding the dowry. With that, dear viewers, I hope to see you again in the coming segments, and I hope that you've enjoyed being with me as I have enjoyed researching this program and presenting it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The greatest of prophets, Islam was his own.